Welcome and good morning to episode 18 of Crypto Posse. And I'm here to go straight to the boys. What's happening, Posse? How we doing this morning?
What's good,
Good,
gentlemen?
good.
Good. How you doing?
Well, I'm glad you guys are doing good because I'm doing good, and that means 4 Posse members are doing good. So let's bring the good in the hood to the public on episode 18. So I'm going to jump straight into Mike. I have a feeling you're going to tell us something about Euro crypto fraud ring gets busted or something, huh?
An investigation done by Spanish police, Europol, and in cooperation with Homeland Security, they dismantled a large cryptocurrency investment fraud ring that was laundering over 540 million in illicit funds. 5 suspects were arrested, 3 in the Canary Islands, 2 in Madrid. And there was a global accomplice network that was used to funnel and collect funds through a Hong Kong-based shell structure where they had payment gateways and fake accounts. So, it's another one of these crypto scams where they were going on social media and advertising the next crypto coin that's gonna, 1000x. There was about 5,000 people that got scammed, some small investors and other large investors. But, the good thing about this is, they caught them and, they can look into it and try to keep these things from happening again. So, it'll help crypto in the long run. It probably would accelerate the structure for more KYC and MAL monitoring as far as exchanges go.
So it'll basically have its benefits, but in the long run, but in the short run, yeah, sounds like a scam city.
It's a bummer because it's obviously when people get wind to this, it tends to make people a little apprehensive about getting into crypto, and that doesn't help things. But the fact that they're handling it, taking care of it, and I think in the long run, it's going to be beneficial.
Did they get the funds back? Any of the funds retrieved?
They haven't got too much of the funds back. They're still kind of tied up on the blockchain, and they use like Tornado Cash and some of these other, where they put them through, a lot of different accounts. It's small amounts, so it's not really it's really hard for them to figure out who and where they're coming from.
And we talked about Tornado Cash last couple episodes about that, and I didn't even think that was up and going. That was supposed to be shut down. So that's why when you watch the show, you get the information of do your own research before you're investing in any of these coins, especially new ones.
There's several of those sites out that are similar to Tornado Cash. I'm not sure exactly the names of them, but they allow you to exchange funds through them, and they don't take your KYC is know your customer, and basically what that is you have to give all your information. A lot of them don't require that, so it's easy to kind of funnel funds through there, undetected.
So I just want to say straight out of the gate, how cool is the name Tornado Cash? That's just a cool name, right? I want a tornado of cash coming my way. Okay. And I'm sure you guys do too. But I mean, it just, that sounds like a cool name. And it sounds like there's a lot of benefits to it. I mean, I like the idea. Wasn't this old school where you didn't have to wasn't the whole point? I mean, Jeff talked about it recently about, just kind of the whole rogue aspect of crypto. The whole point in a lot of ways was just like, you didn't feel so microphone or.
What would really help is don't fall for that shiny coin syndrome. Just because you see something shiny on the ground doesn't mean to go pick it up. Because what's unfortunate is I believe it's in Dubai or in that area of the world where it's not considered a scam. I've heard these guys speak out of their mouth. It's kind of sickening. They don't believe it's a scam because they create a coin, just like Will Ferrell in the basement idea. And then you're sending them money freely no one's holding anything to your head saying you have to do it. So are you really getting scammed or are you just making a really poor financial decision, in my opinion? And if you don't go pick up the coin, then you won't get scammed. Or if you tune in and you listen to the research that we've already done for you, that will also help you not get scammed.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Crypto Posse, ladies and gentlemen. Will telling it like it is, keeping it real, and bringing real world value to the program. So, I mean, Jeff, what do you think about this program? You know, like the whole thing what Mike's talking about.
Yeah, I just think, when you're looking and investing in what you see on the internet, you need to do your own research. And we talked about it on a couple of shows ago to do your own research and look at the white paper and who's behind the coin.
Tell me what white paper is.
White paper is just a structure of what the company's going to do at certain stages of your investment and basically their plan from start until where they want to end up.
So it's their business plan.
Business plan, yes.
So you're looking at the nature, just like you would of anything. If you wanted to invest into a company, whether it be stocks or as an investor, you would do that. You would look at what are their goals, who owns it, what's their track record in their past, a lot of different variables. Like when I talked to a friend of mine who's a money guy and he manages this guy I know manages a $500 million fund. I'm just like, well, how terrible. Anyway, but what he tells me is stuff like that. If you're interested in a company, look at it. And I'm like, look at it how? And he says all stuff like that, So with this, the same kind of thing. It's like, well, don't just jump in. I mean, and I think what also Mike said earlier about, it's bad because it'll make people feel sketchy, which people already do. I mean, a lot of people I know aren't in crypto because they're just sketched out by the whole lack of tangibility. It's not something you can touch. Like if you buy silver coins and you actually have the coins in your possession, they kind of feel like, I don't know. And then you hear you could lose it 50 different ways. It's kind of like a Paul Simon song, 50 different ways to lose your lover. Okay. So it's just in that way of that sketchiness. So maybe it would contribute to that. But as a result of that, which as much as we do probably not like regulations, on some level regulations are good because they create, the seatbelt law. Like we probably hated that when that came. Oh man, the government's telling me to wear a seatbelt. But what we do know is that saved millions of lives.
Yeah, facts. I was just going to say it kind of just like levels the playing field, makes it a little bit more fair. And like you just said, it really removes a lot of the bad actors from the space.
That's cool. I mean, who's got a problem? No one's got a problem with that except for the bad actors.
Right.
Right? But at the same time, we have that in us. We have this rogue, the Crypto Posse is this vibe, and we're kind of rogue in the sense that we probably don't love regulation. We love our personal freedom. We talk about it on the show all the time. The whole reason to do it is for personal freedom. I mean, wealth isn't just to be stuck in a cage. It's to be able to be set free. And so the point of crypto is potentially to set you free globally because you have this, cashish that's a whole different thing. And you could just be like in Tahiti this week and, Italy next week, I mean, it's just the potential for it is so amazing. But the downside is that there's a lot of gray area.
And they're working on it too. It's getting better. But you have to think it's just you if you have fear of the digital assets on a blockchain, which is new technology. So as you're saying, when you're buying silver, you got silver or gold, let's say, and you're buying these big chunks of bars, you're still not safe. You have to put them somewhere safe too, because they could physically get stolen. So you're comparing what you're holding physically to blockchain digitally.
Yeah, but someone would have to come, physically rob you. Okay. Not saying that would be fun. I'm just saying like I've physically been robbed more than once and it wasn't that fun. Okay. But at least, and I've said this to everyone who knows me, and I'll say it on the show, at least they honestly robbed me, which sounds totally strange, right? I mean, these dudes with guns and knives came and robbed me. Okay. And you would think, well, what are you trying to blow them up for? I'm saying, well, at least they didn't smile to my face and steal from me while they're smiling to my face. They made it very clear they were there to rob me. And I kind of respect that. Even though I didn't like getting robbed, that's the thing about crypto. You feel like, man, like I could get robbed and not even know it. And I wouldn't know by who.
And I've tasted that. You know, I've gone through that, right, Jeff?
Yeah, well, we both have. But we're learning, and I think it's the being comfortable with the blockchain and how you're storing your assets. So when you're comfortable with and you do it correctly in like a cold storage wallet, the people that are into that are much more comfortable having their assets in cold storage opposed to a block of gold in your safe or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, and that's part of what I feel like what I want to say outwardly is I feel like what we do here is we talk about a lot of stuff that's really off. It's really just crypto as it relates to a human, not really necessarily just about what's going on in the numbers today. And I want to tune into that show because I'm going to maybe make a good choice on where I spend my money. It's more about like all things crypto almost from the dark side in, like we're not scared to look at stuff that is on esoteric, for instance, on one side, or, exploring crime on another side, or exploring our dreams on another side, because that's really what drives it is the humanity, I believe. I mean, definitely we want to know about numbers in the market and the graphs, and there's all value in that, no question. But all this stuff right here that we're talking about is just so interesting, I think, hopefully to a growing audience where people would realize what we're doing at Crypto Posse is kind of covering stuff that's unique in terms of how we see the world and then how we communicate that here. So great topic, Mike. I mean, super stoked on any finishing words on that topic before we push forward.
Well, I just wanted to really quick touch on a Bitcoin purchase I thought was kind of interesting. Uh, an angel investor named Anthony Pompolano started a Bitcoin company, dropped $500 million. It's called ProCaps, and they're trying to position themselves as a native financial service company. So they bought like I said, $500 million worth of Bitcoin. And Michael Saylor's chimed in. He had a pretty large purchase as well, this week. And we all know about Michael Saylor's and how, influential he is as far as like the blueprint of, Bitcoin companies. But he tweeted to Anthony Pompolano saying, congratulating him on his first purchase. And Pompolano's response was, save a little Bitcoin for the rest of us. I thought that was kind of interesting. Obviously, he knows how much Michael Saylor has invested in Bitcoin. And he's like, hey, man, save a little for the rest of us.
And he bought $500 million worth, this Popolano guy?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
But is he Italian? It sounds like he's Tony Soprano's friend.
Yeah, he doesn't look Italian, but his name definitely sounds like it. Yeah.
It's like Popolano,
Pompolano could be Greek.
Could be Greek too, yeah. So he's either eating pita or pasta. Okay. But yeah. I mean, just that whole thing of like those guys. And so there's a finite amount, from what I understand, there's a finite amount of Bitcoin.
Yeah, there is. There's actually, the lowest reserves in 3 years are on exchanges right now. There's below 11% of the total Bitcoin supply. So, as far as on exchanges, so we're seeing a little bit of supply crunch, with all these large investors coming and these institutional buys. So it's going to be interesting to see, Bitcoin's struggling to stay over about 106 right now. We're having a little pullback from, that dip we had due to the Israel and Iran war, and I think people are just taking a little profits here. So we're hoping to get a close above 108, and if we could do that, we're hoping for a leg higher. Otherwise, we could see a further dip here. We're kind of on the fence.
Isn't it Michael Saylor who has been on record saying he believes he's the largest investor of Bitcoin on the planet? Is that correct?
Correct.
And isn't it him who said something about that his belief is that one day, he didn't try to say when that day would be, but that Bitcoin would be worth, what was it, like 13 million?
somewhere 13 or 16. And I think that Bitcoin is becoming like the cool thing. And, whether you're an investor, whether you're in Hollywood, music, it's a status thing to where I own a Bitcoin. I read on something on that.
Okay, so it's kind of got that rock and roll vibe, but at the same time, it's also super solid. So, what would it be that you guys would think that? What would it? It sits there around 10. It goes. Last week didn't it go down to like 98, or with different factors. Now it goes up to 111, or it's hovering in the mid 106 in that. Okay, so wherever in there, right? What would it take? What's it going to be that would make crypto go Bitcoin? Because originally it was at $3 or whatever. When was it at its startup? What year did Bitcoin start up? And it was worth like $3.
2012-ish.
13 years ago, Bitcoin was basically in its infancy and literally was $3 or $5.
Yeah, about 2010.
15 years ago. So now, what would it be that would happen that would take it? Sorry, Will, let me just finish. Would be to go to 15 million? And we're over here wondering about, well, it's 106 and 98. I mean, what happens what does it take with a finite resource and then it becomes at that point worth that much money? What happened? I don't even know what I'm asking. I just want to know something about that.
I mean, you kind of touched on it. It's just the finite supply. It comes down to economics 101. If there's only, it's not like gold, right? You can go mine more gold. And if you can go mine and add more to like a balance sheet, it's going to do what we all know. It's going to lower the overall value of whatever that asset is we're talking about.
So there's a finite number, and it only makes sense as it gets more popular and more solid and more, trusted in terms of the general public. It's going to be a supply and demand issue with the amount of Bitcoin there is. If you own some now for, let's just call it 100K, it's probably a pretty smart thing to do if you got 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. Just go buy some Bitcoin and I'm not telling you to do that. Do whatever you want to do. Not you guys, everybody. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff. We better switch forward though. Jumping out of what a insane topic. We went to Jeff. I know you're going to talk something about SEC versus everyone. Sounds like a war. What's going on?
Yeah, it's been happening, and the SEC was involved with XRP, as we all know, for several years, and that's kind of at its end or has ended. So they're the U.S. government agency that regulates stock and investments. So what they're saying is most crypto tokens are actually securities like stocks, and they should follow the same rules as stocks. On the crypto side, they think they want new rules and regulation for crypto. So that's kind of the battle. Excuse me, the battle. Coinbase and Binance, the two biggest exchanges, are both in legal battles with the SEC now as we speak. And they've labeled Solana and Cardano, which is number 6 and 10 on the largest market cap, and even going after Polygon. And on top of that, they're going into staking services, saying it's like offering interest accounts without a license.
Well, what's interesting is that almost goes back to like what Mike was talking about with, some scam thing or whatever. And then they're trying to, I mean, it all comes down to right now. It seems to me that I don't know if it's at its infancy, but it's still real young in the day of the crypto world, right? It's still pretty young. So, they're working out regulations. It's back to that kind of.
Yeah, and the only country is Europe. They came out with new regulations, so they're stoked over there. I mean, I kind of feel we kind of need that too.
So for once in our lives, we're actually like pro-regulation guys now. Because I would say in general, we were probably the renegade group of guys that would be like, take those regulations and stuff it up your, what, I mean, but it's a good thing to some degree.
Yeah, because if you're a startup company, you'd be kind of scared to do it in the United States because of the gray area. So if the rules were kind of set in place, you could follow them and then not be in trouble by the SEC. So that's why they're moving offshore, Europe, Singapore, or Asia, and the UAE.
I guess you'd have to say the most regulated coin would be XRP now because it's kind of past it's it's gotten through that SEC closure, and so, there's definitely guidelines as far as XRP goes, and hopefully that helps the price action going forward. XRP had a pretty good run yesterday. I thought it was going to break out, and then it just you know dropped back down to right where it was prior. I almost had a little FOMO. I was going to jump in. I was like, man, this thing's gonna going for a moonshot, and I just held myself back. I was like, no, no, wait a minute. But yeah, it's interesting with all this regulation going forward. What do you think about that, Will?
I mean, it's interesting just listening to you guys. It kind of reminds me of the early days of the cannabis industry. The gray areas and the people that, like myself, I'm not scared of any of these regulations. I'm not going to let something that some dude said don't do when behind the scenes he's buying it. Like, you got
So
to
Totally.
be,
true. So true.
Totally.
and these dudes are on record too. You've got Jamie Dimon, freaking the CEO of, is it Chase Bank or JP Morgan?
JP Morgan, yeah.
Yeah, and it, like back in 2014, this dude's making threats to his employees, being like, "If you guys buy Bitcoin, I'm firing you." And then this a-hole behind the scenes is buying it.
Yeah.
What a scumbag.
Like, why is it okay for you? Because of like some fake like title you hold that makes it okay for you to do it and not okay for me? Like, get out of here, guy. Because if I came across you in the street, it wouldn't be a good conversation because I'd have to school him a little bit and kind of tell him like, dude, you're on a pedestal and I get your little handlers are allowing you to do it, but again, simply you're not stopping me from doing it. You're not stopping me from operating in the gray area personally.
It kind of reminds me, and how I don't like to get too political, at least on the show. Okay. But that kind of reminds me of when our governor in this beautiful state of California where we all live, that's right. We love California. It's a beautiful place, right? But like every place, it has its ups and downs, right? But I just remember when we had the COVID freak show, and our governor was like all pumped up on all of us wearing masks, and then yeah, wear the mask, and then he was at some party at a restaurant or something, just living it up. I just think that sends a very strange message, and he's tried to come back from that and say whatever. And I don't want to get all political. I don't care. It could have been from the right or the left. It's not about which party it is or whatever, but it's just a trippy thing to be in a position of power and power and notoriety, call it what you want, and then you don't do what you are telling everyone to do. So what you're saying to me is gross, almost grotesque. Is like he was like pissed off at his employees to try to buy crypto when Bitcoin or whatever, and then he was doing it himself. It just seems so hypocritical to me.
He was probably downplaying it because he wanted to keep the price low while he could still buy more.
Just what a
Man, you
strange
guys,
set of
Typical
values.
typical banker, man. They're there to make money, right?
you
Yep.
guys just open the curtains, right?
Yeah.
These are the people behind the curtains that we don't listen to. And you know what really came to mind, Joseph? And I got to give you kudos to this thought right now. Money is the tool, okay? Freedom is the goal. So don't get caught up in all the politics and don't get caught up in the gray area. Make the money, improve your life, improve the life of the people around you, your tribe, your family, your friends, and leave the rest for the next guy. Let them figure it out because you could see on the world stage was what's happening. And the reason why I say the curtains are open is because look at, you can go back to the genesis of Bitcoin and every single conflict that's happened, even COVID. Look at what happened. It pulled all markets back. And then look at, you probably come across as a genius if you would have bought that dip, but all you did was buy fear, sell greed. We've talked about it many times.
Every time I talk to Will, I feel like there's bumper stickers just popping in my head, just incredible statements and sayings. They're just so stoked on what you guys are talking about today, what we're talking about. I'm jumping in too. But the thing is I want to see if we can just go ahead and now that Will's kind of been chatting in with that one, just go right to this. Will, I know you have this topic, how to leverage crypto.
We live in a day and age where there's so many different ways to leverage your crypto. You can go to a platform and you could leverage your crypto that way. You can also, and this is what's beautiful, we just touched on it last week. Coinbase puts out this commercial They've got websites that are now putting the home or property value into crypto or Bitcoin. And so now Bitcoin, and I've had personal conversations with people where I've asked this question, can you purchase property or can you purchase a home with your crypto? And the answer is simply yes. So now crypto can also be used as collateral to purchase these things. And it's funny because looking back, I mean, I think it was in 2021. Tell me what you saw too, Jeff and Mike, if you're in the scene. But I remember, people coming out like Ferrari, the company, saying, again, for this echelon of people, they could use their crypto to buy Ferrari. And it's really cool to see how we talk about regulation. Yes, some is good, some is bad. But at the end of the day, it really goes back to that statement. Money really is simply the tool. And it's what you do with that tool determines the outcome. You can go build a house, you can go dig a hole. The choice is yours.
I've just always thought, like, money in itself is potentially freedom. But then there's that thing I don't know if we've talked about on the show, but I've talked about a lot outside the shows, the money disease. Like, when is enough enough? It's like, I don't want to bag on anyone, but let's just say, for instance, everyone knows most people know who Warren Buffett is, right? Just guys like that. You're like, and then I heard a story. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're doing pretty well. Is that fair to say? I heard a story that his wife was at a local store by where they live, and she was actually upset because a bag of coffee beans was like $4 when she could get it down the street for like $3. Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but it blew my mind. And I'm kind of thinking that's the money disease, because at a certain point, it just becomes kind of embarrassing. Like, I think on one level, we just all kind of hopefully have goals. I have goals, financial goals. I have, as a surfer, goals. As a strength training, athletics, sports-minded, physical fitness person, I have specific goals every year that I'm trying to reach. There actually are specific numbers of certain things at certain speeds that I want to do it and whatever. So I believe in being goal-oriented. However, at a certain point, there should be something called satisfaction, where you feel stoked, where you're ready to go, yeah, let's go experience this freedom, right? But what I feel like the money disease is this thing where it's just more. It's like, that's gross to me. Like, what is enough?
That's a really good question, man.
I know it's different for everybody too, so I don't want to be here to judge, but I'm pretty sure that Warren Buffett and his wife don't have to worry about the price of a bag of coffee beans.
And you got to think too where that store is, because I always tell people, it's like with the egg situation that went on. Well, okay, it was one thing in your cart that's double the price, right? But like, say you're going to another store where it's cheaper. Well, did you think about when you get in the car and how much gas costs? You're going to waste your time, spend the gas, and at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
It's an attitude, it's an energy, and it's like, money is exactly what Will said. It's a tool for freedom. So like, I get it. The guy's psyched on business. He loves what he does. He's passionate about it. But I mean, and he'll give away a lot of money. Those guys, they're philanthropists, and they give, charities, and they do a lot of cool stuff. So I'm not trying to bag on the person at all. First of all, I want to read the book of successful businessmen. I'm not jealous of them. I'm not mad at them. I just want to introduce back in a backflow way what Will is talking about, like, what isn't, well, you didn't say what is enough. You talked about, leveraging crypto and that money is a freedom really, and it's the tool. And I'm just relating to that topic, this kind of energy. So I'm just real excited about life and real excited about what we're doing, and how I know we were going to bring up something to do with this game that we're looking to institute here on Crypto Posse called Crypto Coliseum. Something I want to introduce to the public, our viewing audience, is something we're working on to try to bring a game that I'll let you guys explain a little bit more about.
I think it's a really cool concept, first off, because you could take somebody who knows nothing about any of these platforms. You could take somebody who's never even seen a chart whatsoever. And how do you get somebody comfortable? You get them to push the buttons. You get them to interact with these interfaces, these websites. And it's like anything. I mean, when we first started walking, right? Or better example, driving a car, right? Did we just jump in a car and, man, I'm gonna go driving 100 miles an hour down the road? No, it's like I'm teaching my 16-year-old just roll, become familiar with what it feels like to be in the car, and relating it to the crypto coliseum and this game is, now imagine you're learning this new skill set, and it's a skill you could take wherever you go. And once you learn how to utilize that skill set and leverage on that skill, you could start making this money. And I love that you touched on how much money is enough. Using Warren Buffett, to me, to answer that question simply, it's, what do your bills look like? What would, making an extra $1,000 a month, how would that help you? We're not talking about 10 grand, 100 grand. We're talking about $1,000. And how can you utilize that to help you in your life? And it's cool to have a game that's interactive to do that.
And on the game, I believe part of it is we'll all be able to continue learning by the game being the centerpiece of what we're evolving to do on Crypto Posse. I think Crypto Coliseum will kind of take over at least, a large portion of, because everything will kind of relate to how the game in terms of how we're learning all the topics we talk about. How does that benefit in a real world way? So I feel like the game could be fun. It's kind of like a Monopoly vibe where it's fake money and everyone gets a certain amount to start, and we just it's like kind of like bridging say fantasy sports with global video gaming. Like we're hoping to kind of create this model of like fun investing. It's like, imagine if you had that for the horse track. Like, fantasy sports track where you didn't really have to, you could go to the horse races and just play with it, but this also could be a template to help you learn how you would do it in real life. Crypto Coliseum, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone else got anything to add? I know Mike and Jeff are just chomping at the bit to talk to it.
Most of my trading career, you could call it, I mostly did spot and scalping, sometimes longer holding, but now kind of future trading with leverage, it just completely opened the door. You have this ability to put less money and act like it's more money. And there is risk with that. But when you're, whether you're using AI looking at the charts, maybe you're trading less, but when you just have a feeling it's either going to go up or down, which would be long or short, and you make the right decision, the payoff is just amazing. So what it would do for anyone that hasn't traded like that, you get to basically pay for play for free and learn. And at the end of the week, we kind of, it's a fun competition as well. So it's going to get you, active, trying to make the right trades. And then you could look back at your data and see where you made mistakes or what you maybe should have done. And then it's a learning process, a competition, and we're having fun.
Oh my gosh. Where's the downside? Mike, talk to me. What do you think?
What we're going to do is we're going to come up with a dollar amount, and I think we talked about $50,000 each, and it's going to be a competition between the posse, and then we want to hopefully get the public on board after that to compete with us, and hopefully get some sponsors involved and get some prize money, and should be a really fun thing for the posse and for the public to interact with us. So we're pretty excited about it, and I think we were talking about putting that on the platform Blowfin, and it should be really fun. I'm pretty excited about it.
Awesome. Me too. Will, how do you feel about playing the game? I know you're just going crazy for it.
Man, I've been patiently waiting to get into it. My next trade, my last trade was phenomenal. Just beautiful, picture perfect entry, exit, the whole nine. What's really cool is what I'm listening to you guys share and putting myself in the shoes of somebody who's new. You're learning how to walk, right? There's no instructions, there's no book that we read at the age on, oh, how do you walk? You just do it. And that's coming from, my mentor. I pay to be around smart people. There's a reason why. You are who you hang around, and I hang around successful people for a reason. But as you're learning to walk, the next stage for you, and I am not going anywhere, right? You're always going to be able to get a hold of me in some way or another, whether it's through the comment section below or the universe just somehow miraculously puts us in front of each other. But my point is that as you learn to walk, you're going to learn how to run. And again, it's a skill that once you go from fake money, then you start to load the real money because there's a difference. There's a difference between fake money and how you trade that fake money. And then there's a whole different beast when you're talking about real money, the emotions and the mindset that goes along with it.
Because of the risk, the inherent risk of your real money versus the play money. But hey, there's benefit in all sides, right? I mean, it's just, yeah, that's a really good thing to isolate. Like, it's easy to play the game and 50 grand player, what's up? Let's go all in. But I mean, if it was your own money, it might feel a little different. But the cool thing about the game is it would allow you to kind of have a mentor. It's like mentoring, teaching. It's fun. I mean, I don't know. Sounds like we're all pretty psyched on it. Is that fair to say?
Totally.
It's
I'm
in development as we speak.
stoked.
Let's put it this way.
And I think if, there's really, I guess, not any rules, but if you want it to benefit your trading, I guess more than a competition, pretend it is real money. Like, do the trades that you think you would do if you had the 50 grand in there.
Yeah, and then once we get where there's actually winnings, the goal is to make it so you win. I think we're going to do it like where you win monthly. So in a year, we'll have 12 winners. And then what I hope to do is like a champion of champions game. So we get 12 winners go up against each other in the champion. Maybe there's more money for that, But at the end of the day, I mean, just really exciting stuff in development here at Crypto Posse. I want to thank you guys for showing up today for another awesome episode. All to my public, comment, like, subscribe. I can't say that enough. I'll just say it one time for now. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and the posse of the main thing. Thank you very much.